rather than react to it and either avoid it, push it away, put labels on it so that you create a space, you know, put it in a box somewhere, etc. All the different ways that we deal. And you know, it must be said, all you can do is to do your best, because you're really getting to the heart of things here. And we've got a lot of stuff that we have to learn to be very skillful with, that we approach in a skillful way, little by little by little. We can't just like this. It's not possible. We can't do it. But what we always do, we must always remind ourselves is that to be comfortable with yourself, that you're doing your best, right? And that means that when you don't pull it off, you don't make an issue out of it. But what ideally, yeah. Well, pulling off means that when you do feel vulnerable, because you got that awareness, like you say, you have this growing awareness where you're beginning to wake up to yourself, when you're beginning to wake up to these bits of you that before you've not been awakened to. That when you see it, and you say yes, and you open to it, and you leave it alone, and you don't put labels on it, good and bad. You start to engage with it. This is good, this is bad, right, wrong. Immediately you're putting a space there. What we do to the best of our ability, and I can't emphasize that enough, is to open up and say yes, and to leave it. And in that you're embracing it, and what you're doing, that is you. That is very much a part of what you are. That somehow has got off somewhere, has got twisted or polluted or whatever you want to say. What you're doing is you're actually making friends with a part of yourself that up until then you've always avoided in some way. You protected yourself from. You've done. It's not like, you know. And then we say, you know, we put it out there. It's you. It's this. It's that. It's nothing of the sort. It's actually a part of what you are. And this is the healing process. Is that when it comes along, and rather you say, when the reaction comes in, you say no, because you have this awareness now, and you have the commitment. You say no, and you open up to it, and you say yes. When you open up, you're saying yes to it in a dharmic way, and you're embracing it, and you're knowing that this is a part of me, what I am. And that's called making friends. That's the dharmic way of making friends. You're healing something that's been a conflict, that's been split.
It's like a rift.
Yeah, a rift, exactly. And it's a healing process. That's all we're doing. It's a healing process. But we have to do it skillfully, dharmically. And the dharmic way is not to have an opinion. It's not to involve, as you've always had an opinion on it. Now you don't have an opinion. Now you just open and say yes, with your awareness, with that clarity that you need to retain, because if you lose that clarity, you'll fall into whatever habit that you have. Keep the awareness, and open and say yes, and bear with it to the best as you're capable, because there's a huge amount of emotion. There's all sorts of stuff that can come up, and all you can do is your best. But to do your best, and this is why we have Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. That's why we go for refuge, is that we have something to help us, to support us, so that we have something around it that, you know, well, actually there's a way of dealing with this, whereas before you had no way of dealing with it, as people don't, or the way that they deal with it is they manage it, they do whatever they need to do to protect themselves. Now you're in this healing process that's not easy, that takes a long time, but the environment that you create is one of acceptance and openness, of embracing, of making friends, and you stay with it as best you can. Retain your awareness and stay with it. Now that's going to evoke all sorts of, but you bear with it and you stay with it, and you stay with it, and just see it if you can, and have all sorts of pictures and scenarios, which may shift. Today it's like this, next day it'll be something else. The 10,000 things is the trick, if you like, is not to buy into all of those, but just to stay with the experience. And if you can see those experiences just being like, if it helps, see it like a fire. It's a fire that's burning, and it is a fire. It's an emotional fire. It's not a physical fire. It's an emotional fire. But see it as a fire, and you think, well, you obviously, it's time for the fire not to be there. It's time for the fire to go out, because this is just not on anymore. This is just not. This is not what I want to do anymore. So what do you do with the fire if you don't throw fuel on it? You just leave it alone. You learn to see it as a fire. And that if you don't react to it, and it's when you react, you put fuel on it. I don't care what the reaction is. You're empowering it. You're acknowledging it. You're giving it something that will allow it to come back again in the future. So what you do is you don't throw fuel on it. That's simple logic, isn't it? With any fire. So you could always remind yourself, say, this is a fire, and I'm now going to leave it alone. And if I leave it alone without throwing fuel on it, however big it is, however long it takes, there's only one thing that's going to happen to this fire. I don't even have to tell you what's going to happen to it, because it's so basic. But you can take refuge in that. You can remind yourself that this is what I'm now doing with this. Is that this is what I'm doing. Actually, you're not doing anything, but dharmically, you're addressing something that's very ingrained with you. And now you know, rather than be confused, what do I do about this, and go running off to therapists or go down the pub or whatever you do, because it's too much for you. Now say, great, fantastic, at last I know how to heal myself. I mean, that's a fantastic thing to know. And to have more and more clarity around. At last in my life, all this dukkha I've been carrying for so long, totally confusing, I don't know what to do about it, I'm just going insane, and I'm, now I know. Now I know the path that will take me out of suffering, which is to do nothing. Now that's the dharmic way. There's nothing in the world like that. The world is always about doing things. Do this and do that. See this person, do the concepts, methods, da-di-da-di-da. The dharmic way is not of the world. The dharmic way, mysteriously and completely illogically, it doesn't fit our intelligence because it isn't of the world, and it's that we don't do anything. But that has to be qualified. You don't do anything because you have awareness, and you have the willingness and the ability to commit yourself to open and accept it and to stay with it. Now, if you want to call that doing, you can. Actually, it isn't a doing. Actually, when you look at it, all you're doing is becoming alive to something. And now you have the wisdom, the understanding. When it comes, you know this is a fire, and what I mustn't do is throw fuel on it. And with that knowledge, you realise that there isn't anything to do but just to open and accept it and embrace it and to stay with it. That's the path. Psst. You do that with everything, and all the stuff that you carry, all the fires that you carry, they'll all burn themselves out. Then you'll be free.